Van Haaland. So we're going to have a second round, but I also think Senator Tester is going to be here in a few moments. And I just want to start by noting that the question was raised as to whether this administration has created a hostile economic environment for oil and gas companies. And the short answer is that the oil and gas companies made, just the American companies, $205 billion in net profits last year. Absolutely record-setting. The record-setting profits this last quarter, massive stock buybacks, and they've tripled their margins on refining. So they are truly gouging the American publics. So if we want to stop this gouging, the big oil windfall profits tax is the way to do it. And that I invite any colleagues who are as concerned as I am about the price of the pump to join us to stop this gouging by the oil companies of the American consumer. Switching gears, I recently led my colleagues in urging the Department to renew its commitment to the Western Oregon Operating Plan. This plan ensures a coordinated interagency approach to wildfire response between the state, the tribes, the communities, and BLM. This is so important that we put into the fiscal year 2022 omnibus direction requiring the BLM to maintain or expand the scope of that agreement, which means no shrinking of the agreement. But despite that, we keep hearing concerns from the Oregon governor, local officials, emergency managers, Oregon tribes, that BLM is seeking to shrink the scope of the agreement. Now, southern Oregon communities like Ashland and Medford have been repeatedly declared high-risk areas from wildfire by both federal and state agencies. And a couple of our southern Oregon communities like Talent and Phoenix were absolutely devastated in the 2020 wildfires that just devastated those towns. Will the department honor the requirement in 2022 fiscal year to make sure that this Western Oregon operating plan is maintained in its full scope and functionality?
Chairman, thank you so much for the question. And of course, the BLM remains committed to maintaining the mutual aid response agreements for wildland fire management. The BLM partnered with the Oregon Department of Forestry for 2022 and 2023 years, and they're discussing currently 2024.
Absolutely, and that discussion is being directed by what we put into 2022, that it be maintained in its scope and functionality, and I want to make sure that I have your commitment that will honor that requirement in the 2022 bill to maintain the scope and functionality of that plan.
Yes, Senator.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
Absolutely. We understand. Fire is it's a top priority for our department across the board. So we understand how important this is, and I appreciate your concern as well. We're happy to work with you always.
Well, I appreciate the commitment you've expressed to make sure it sustains its scope and functionality. Incredibly important to my state. Mm-hmm. I'm going to squeeze in one last question before I turn this over to Senator Tester. The department has noted it's going to be considering a listing for the Monarch on the Endangered Species Act in the year 2024. That should send a signal that we have 2 years to do everything possible to restore the Monarch. As I pointed out in the beginning, even after a big rebound, we have less than 1% of the historic number of monarchs. Children are growing up whose parents saw these butterflies everywhere, never seen one, and they play an important role as pollinators. We know that we have to massively increase the habitat, and we can use public lands, we can use highways, we can use conservation agreements, but we need to be able to populate those lands with both flowers producing nectar and also milkweed for caterpillars. And those flowers that produce nectar are great for all of the pollinators. So we have to develop a massive effort to restore flowers and milkweed. And I know that the department was just fabulous in partnering on the Monarch Summit. This, of course, pollinator, nectar-producing flowers are so important to a whole range of pollinators, certainly our bees as well. And I just want to ask, will you continue to work over these 2 years before to do everything we possibly can to massively increase habitat for the monarch and other pollinators?
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate so much your dedication to this. So with the $4 million increase provided in 2022, just so that you know, the service will inventory and monitor pollinators, support on-the-ground projects for monarch habitat restoration, and stand up a new Office of Pollinator Conservation. Of course, that funding also helped with the Monarch Summit for National Pollinator Week that we hosted along with you. And then our 2023 budget includes an additional $5 million increase for this work.
Thank you. I look forward to continuing to press forward on this. And let's turn to Senator Tester.
Yeah, thank